Hi, this is Walter Montero, and you're listening to this week's edition of the Real Estate and Mortgage Show. Hey guys, how you doing? Walter Montero here. Welcome to this week's edition of the Real Estate and Mortgage Show. Definitely some interesting things going on out in the market these days, that's for sure. I was playing around with some numbers on the MLS system today, and I usually like to mess around with them because I'm a bit of a nerd that way, I guess. And what I found very interesting was the specific numbers I was looking for was the sale price to list price ratio. So in other words, what percentage of the list price did the property sell for? And basically up to now, that ratio has been somewhere around 131% on an average or a median price. So, now with a little bit of a change in the marketplace, we've noticed a lot of people sort of scrambling with their listings. They're have their homes on the market for a week or 10 days, and then they have their offer day, and then all of a sudden it doesn't sell. And then what they end up doing a couple things. They may end up doing a system where all of a sudden they bring the property up to the list price or up to a price where they would accept. So in other words, a bring an offer now type of price. Or some others will actually go further down in price. So I guess the real question is who's right and what's the right approach? Well, ironically, you'd think that ship has sort of sailed with regards to, properties selling over list. But I can tell you statistically and by the numbers on MLS, it has not. In fact, the majority of properties are selling somewhere between 120 and 130% of their list price. And I think this is a really important point for a seller because when a seller puts their home on the market, a lot of times they're uneasy about what the list price should be. And I think realistically, if you take a look and say, okay, let's go the traditional route, let's just list it at a price that you would want to sell it at, very few properties are selling that way. In fact, if you go back over the last 6 months, less than 1% of properties sold that way. Now, the numbers have greatly changed in the last 30 days, but not that much. So if you take a look at the number of properties that sold in our community, which is somewhere around 850 properties that sold in the last 30 days, that's just pending, not counting the ones that have already sold and closed, just pending, still waiting to close. There was around 800, I think there was around 836 to be exact. And the ones that sold at list price or less was basically 79. So you're basically, for all intents and purposes, you're talking more or less 10% of the properties are selling that way. The majority of properties, where the lion's share of the properties are selling, are between 120 and 130%. So if you're a seller and you want to get your property sold, the approach of going up in your price is more than likely not going to serve you very well. Because what you want to do is you want to continue and offer that multiple offer situation. Now, you may not have, like the crazy days of 2021, 30 and 40 offers on the table, but you still have the opportunity to have 3, 4, 5, 6 offers, 7 offers on the table. There are still some situations where there are dozens of offers on the table, but very, very few. But if you're questioning the approach as to how to list your property, the wise thing to do would be to place it somewhere between 20 and 30% below what you feel market value is. And of course, market value is going to be determined by a comparative market analysis and by a conversation with your listing agent. So that's my 2 cents for this week's show. Just thought I'd share that with you. Definitely there's some changes going on in the marketplace. Rates have gone up, affecting TDSR ratios, but it's still moving relatively well. And if you're looking to buy a property, owning is better than renting. And if you've done the math or done any shopping in the rental market, you'll know that renting a property is going to cost you a fortune anyway. You might as well take a look at what it's going to take to buy one. All right, that's my 2 cents for this week's show. And if you have any comments or concerns, call me, 519-240-0360. Thanks again for listening to this week's episode of the Real Estate Mortgage Show. If you have any real estate questions, please direct them to me at 519-624-9222. or walter@maximumresults.ca, or you can find me online at www.cambridgehouses.com. If your interests are in mortgages, please feel free to call 519-624-9222 or email Karen@maximumresults.ca, or you can find her online at www.m as in Mary, R as in Roger, financial.ca. Thanks again for listening, and I hope you have a great week.